And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Ryan Metzler.
Hey everybody, it's Ryan Metzler here again today, and today we're going to be looking at a card game. Specifically, we're going to be looking at a climbing card game, or something that's kind of akin to a trick-taking card game, and it's called Tichu. You've probably heard of it. It's one of the best four-player trick-taking card games out there, and really it's one of my favorite games to play in general. It plays quickly, it's a blast. Generally when you start playing it, you kind of get addicted to it. And really, there's a lot of strategy going on. It's a great partner game. So why don't we take a look at what's inside the box, how the game plays, and potentially what some strategies might be. So unfortunately, I don't really even have the rules for Tichu anymore, but really all you're getting is a deck of cards, actually a standard deck of cards pretty much. It's 4 suits, or your typical 52 cards. 2 through ace, and in 4 different suits. So as I said, you have green, black, red, and blue here, or if you're colorblind, you have gems, swords, stars, and huts. Now, it's not just a deck of cards. There are 4 additional cards included, and these cards are actually integral to the play of the game Tichu. These cards are going to be the Mahjong, which is the one here. It's the only one in the game as aces are high. The Phoenix, the Dragon, and the Dog. And all of these cards have special rules within the game. The Mahjong, as I said, is a 1 card, and it will dictate which player starts each hand. Additionally, the Mahjong allows you to play the card and wish for any other card. The next person who is able to play that card legally must do so on a trick, and therefore you may be able to call a card out that you don't want to see come around, or you may be able to find out who's holding an ace or something to that extent. The Phoenix is a wild card that is a half a point above the previously played card. So for example, if somebody has played a 7, and you play the Phoenix on top of it, this would be a 7.5. Also, you can use it within a run to act as any card that you don't have. So for example, if you had 5, 6, 8, 9, you could use the Phoenix as a 7. The Dragon is the highest card of any single card. So for example, this Dragon is higher than an ace. You could use this card to take any trick of which you might like to take, as long as that trick was led with a single card. Finally, we have the Dog, and the Dog is a special kind of card, even more so than the other 3 which are played during tricks. The Dog is a card that allows you to pass the lead of the game to your partner. Now, this can't be played during a trick, but must be played as the first card of a trick, because it immediately ends that round and passes play to your partner on your team. So unlike normal trick-taking games, Tichu has a different style of play in that you may choose to lead different types of sets of cards, and they're all represented right here. The first thing you can lead, like normal trick-taking games, this is any single card. A single card, for example, being a 3. You must then follow that type of play, meaning that you may now follow with any single card, for example, a 4, 5, 6, 7, on up through ace, and the highest single card is going to win. Now this is where the Dragon comes into play, because the Dragon may only be played on single card tricks. So the Dragon's going to trump any single card, with one exception which I'll go into later. The next type of card combination you can play is a pair. So for example, here we have a pair of 7s. If you lead a pair, every player around must follow with a pair or pass. In this manner, you must always follow what the leading player has started. So for example, if they lead a single card, you must follow with single cards. A pair, you must follow with pairs. The same is true for 3 of a kind, which is the next card combination. If they lead 3 5s, you must then follow with something higher than 3 5s. For example, 3 aces. Next, we have a different type of combination, and this is going to be called consecutive pairs. So for example, we have here 6 6, 7 7. This is consecutive pairs. And if anybody were to follow, they'd have to play likewise. For example, 8 8, 9 9, being a higher set of consecutive pairs. You may play more than 2 consecutive pairs, so for example 6 6, 7 7, 8 8, and every other player that wanted to follow would have to follow likewise. The last normal type of set of cards is going to be the full house. So for example, here you have kings over 8s. A higher full house would have to be higher than the kings, showing, for example, aces over 4s. The last 2 types of cards that we have here are special cases, and these are called bombs. Bombs are cards that may be played out of turn order, so usually when you're playing a trick, the leader will play, and players will follow around in a circle playing cards higher than the previously played card in order to try and win the trick. Bombs, as I said, are a special case, which you may play out of turn order, and there are two types. There's the four of a kind, which you can see here represented by 4 aces, and there's the straight flush, represented through the 9 through king of swords. Straight flushes are always higher than 4 of a kind bombs, and bombs, as I said, may be played out of order, and they'll always win a trick as long as a higher bomb isn't played. So for example, even if someone were to lead a single card, and single cards had been played all the way around, and even, for example, if the dragon had been used to take that trick, a bomb may be then played over it in order to win. So the game is played, and it will start out with a deal, and each player will be dealt an initial 8 cards. So you'll see there'll be 4 piles of 8 cards. I'm not going to deal them all out, but you get the idea. And after each player has gotten 8 cards, they will have a chance to look at them. Now remember, the players across from each other are going to be on teams, so this player and this player will be on one team, this player and this player will be on another. They'll have a chance to look at these 8 cards and decide whether or not they think this is a good hand. If they think it's a great hand, they'll have the option of calling what is called Grand Tichu, which I'll discuss later, but will be worth a lot of points if they manage to be the first player to go out of the hand. If nobody decides to call Grand Tichu, or even if somebody does, you're going to deal out the rest of the deck to players, and they'll have the option to look at all of their cards. At this point, once you've been dealt all of your cards, you may look at your hand, and before playing any of your cards, may choose to call what is called regular Tichu. Now, regular Tichu means that you've seen all of your cards, you know that they're good, and you have a relatively good chance of going out first. You think you can. Doing so will grant you a bunch of points at the end of the hand, if you are successful, but will grant you negative points if you fail to do so. After everybody has been dealt, players are going to pick up their cards, they're going to look at them, and they're going to have to pass cards to their opponents and to their partner. They'll pass 1 card to their left, 1 card to their right, and 1 card across. 1 for their partner, and 1 each for each of their opponents. All players will pass in this manner, so you have a chance to either void yourself of cards that you don't want, or to maybe pass your partner something that you think they might really need. A lot of the strategy of the game is in passing cards. So you may get clues from what your partner has by what they pass. You may pass in order to try and prevent your opponents from getting straights or pairs. And you may actually be trying to get them to pass you a low card that you actually held on to. After passing, players will pick up. Whoever has the mahjong will start trick play. And the game will proceed around until 3 of the 4 players have managed to go out of their hands. The last player will pass their cards to their opponents, all tricks, their remaining cards to their opponents, all tricks taken to the first player to go out, and scoring will proceed. So as I said, the objective of Tichu is to score points, and you're going to be doing this with a teammate, and you're going to be trying to score the most points by collecting certain cards. The only cards in the game that score points are the ones you see on the table here. 5s, which when you take in tricks will score 5 points for you, 10s, which will score 10 points, and kings, which will score 10 points. And as you can see, this adds up to 100 points. Now, there are 2 additional cards that can score points, and I went over them earlier. These are the dragon and the phoenix. The dragon, as I told you earlier, can be used to take a trick as long as that trick was led and followed with single cards. However, there's a trick to the dragon. It's worth 25 points. However, if you are to win a trick with the dragon, you must give that trick to one of the members of the opposing team. You're going to want to try and give it to the member who you think is going to go out last, because you may have a chance of getting these cards back. The Phoenix, on the other hand, is worth negative 25 points, and as I stated earlier, it's either half a point above a single card, or can act as a card, a wild in another combination. As I said, this is worth negative 25 points, so it's not necessarily you want to have it in a trick that you take, but if it's balanced out by a decent amount of 10s, 5s, or kings, it may be worth it to take a trick with the Phoenix. Another way to score points is by calling what's called either Tichu or Grand Tichu, and this is going to get you either 100 or 200 points. Calling Tichu means that when you've seen all of your cards, but before you've played any, you're going to predict that you'll be the first person to get rid of all of your cards. If you succeed in doing so, your team will score 100 points. Grand Tichu is called when you think after seeing only 8 of your cards that you'll be the first person to go out. If you successfully do so without seeing the last 6 cards that you're dealt, you will get 200 points for your team. Finally, you may get additional points if both you and your teammate go out first and second. A 1-2 out for a team is worth 200 points. The goal is to reach 1,000 points over multiple hands, and the first team to do so is declared the winner. So that's the game of Tichu. As I said, one of my favorite card games, well, probably actually my favorite card game in general. It's a great game if you have 4 players. It can be played with more. You can do some team stuff if you combine decks. I've never done that, and from what I've heard, it's not really suggested. 4 players is really the sweet spot. It's really the only spot for this game. If you have 4 players and you love card games, definitely pick it up. There's a great amount of strategy. There's a great amount of learning interactions with your partner. If you play frequently enough, you can probably get some strategy down where just through passing cards and through the mode of play, what you see your opponent playing or what you see your partner playing, you might be able to figure out additional strategies to best optimize your game. You frequently see experienced players destroying non-experienced players. It's really something that requires a group of people that know what they're doing, but if you have that or you have the time to develop that, Tichu is a great game for anybody who loves trick-taking, climbing, or hand-voiding games. It's cheap, it's not that hard to play. I would suggest picking up a copy for almost anybody.
Thanks for joining us today. For more written, audio, and video reviews, as well as the #1 board game podcast, check out the website at www.thedicetower.com. Until then, this is Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.